So welcome back. So as you guys can see on the title, this video is going to be about the Space Force. And I wanted to talk about the Space Force just because a lot of people that probably run into my videos, it's usually about the Coast Guard, but it's also important for you to consider other branches and to see what fits you best. And the reason the Space Force is something that I wanted to even take the time to talk about is because everything's advancing, like in general, like we're moving really fast here, with AI, with a new technology, with everything. We're moving like in rapid speed, and pretty soon a lot of the jobs that we have won't even exist, and blah blah blah. The Space Force is really new, right? And if you're considering a military branch, there's a bunch of branches. You have the Navy, the Marine Corps, you have the Coast Guard, you have the Army, and the National Guard, and stuff like that. But the Space Force, it's relatively new. It's only been established for about 6 years. It was established in 2019, in December 20th of 2019. And basically, Donald Trump has been talking about how we need to put more money into, like, for example, the Golden Dome, and they want to invest $175 billion into that project, or I think it was 831 billion in the span of 20 years. And all this is kind of to put more defense systems in the United States and be able to protect ourselves and to basically monitor space better and all that stuff, because that's basically where we're headed. We're basically heading, like, in 40 years from now, we're going to be doing things, and things are going to be happening that we never thought would happen. And the Space Force is something you should really consider. And the reason why is because when you're choosing a military branch, right, there's a lot of different approaches, and there's a lot of different reasons why people choose to join the military in general. Some do it for the benefits, some do it for the safety net of financial reasons, like they have a steady paycheck, they have health insurance, they have, everything that comes with the GI Bill and college and stuff like that. Well, depending on your reason and why you're joining, that it's very important to consider that once you join a branch like the Army, the Marines, Coast Guard, whatever it is, maybe it wasn't what you wanted. Maybe it wasn't exactly what you pictured. Maybe the job wasn't as good, and now you're thinking, like, I want to get out. Well, that's why it's important what branch you choose, because depending on what job you choose, what branch you choose, will really impact on what job you will have and if those skills are transferable. And so that's why I started thinking, like, Space Force, it's only been established for 6 years. Like, what can it really offer? Well, it offers a lot, guys. So let's go ahead and go through their whole website here. So this is their website. By the way, it's freaking awesome. If you guys ever get a chance to really go on it, it's just so cool. They have some background music, and it's just really great. So I'm going to go here. So right here, right, we scroll down and we have the branch is so small, only 9.4K. I think for 6 years, that's still really small. But the Coast Guard, for example, is only like about 40,000 active duty members. So this is not even 10K members, which is really, really, really crazy. And another thing to consider is that it only has 6 bases. So why is that important? Well, a big factor to when people are deciding when to join is, like, are you going to be deployed? Are you going to be where are you going to be stationed, right? And a lot of the branches are either overseas or even like land billets or underway billets, right? So a big concern is, like, will I be underway? Will I be overseas and stuff like that? Well, you get none of that with this. This is the awesome thing about this. And I could be wrong. There could be some examples of, like, certain deployments, which is fine. In some cases, that's what people want. But right here, we go to Space Force bases. And so right here it shows, you click Florida, and you either get stationed in Florida. They have 3 in Colorado, and then they have 2 in Los Angeles. So that's pretty awesome. These are really nice areas. If you love the sun, you can go to Florida. If you want, like, all 4 seasons, you'll go to Colorado, California, and that's not bad if you think about it. So that's one good thing to think about. And now let's go to what's really important and what really popped out to me. So these are the careers, right? And so you go here to careers and you go to the enlisted. So there's enlisted, officer, and civilian. And then you go to enlisted, and basically right here, let me turn this music off. Okay, so right here in enlisted, you have some really cool stuff. Like this is where like STEM really popped out to me. And STEM is your science, technology, engineering, mathematics. A lot of people when they're going to school, they get priority if you're in a STEM program because those are areas of studies that are towards the future. They're very in high demand and they're needed. So when you're thinking about should I join the Coast Guard, should I join the Army, should I join something that's going to give you something no matter what happens. It's going to give you a good return no matter what. And since we're only moving further and further in technology and AI developments and everything, you want to consider something like a branch that's sophisticated and moving towards the future, like Space Force, for example. So enlisted jobs here is going to be Space Force Systems Operator, All Source Intelligence Analyst, and Signs, Signals Intelligence Analyst, Targeting Analyst, and so on. And these are like, um, these are jobs that are like in the civilian side. They're very on demand. Oh, and if they're not in demand yet, like I'll give you guys an example. So someone that studies an engineering, right? Like let's say you go to school to be an engineer. They go to school, they become an engineer, and they get their degree. And then they're looking for work. They're looking for work and they're trying to get into a good job. And like there's people that really want to be involved in something big and stuff like that. So what happens is in the civilian side, you get a company, right? Someone like an entrepreneur that started a business and he has a contract with the Navy. And now this contractor and the Navy work. So basically, the Navy pays this contractor, and the contractor is an engineer that hires a bunch of engineers that went to school and that studied STEM, and they're good in all these areas, and basically they create weapon systems and all this stuff for the military, right? And that's cool. Like that would be someone's dream to get a job like that. But what this offers you, the Space Force, is basically like, hey, like you don't even have to do all that. Like come join us, right? So you can go into a branch like the Space Force, do one of these jobs, basically have experience doing all this. You're going to get your BAH and all the benefits that you would usually get, right? And at the end of that, you're still going to get your pension after 20 years. So you're basically getting a full-time job, a return at the end of 20 years. You're doing something you love. You're involved with high-tech technology and futuristic things that are in the making. And you're involved. You're involved with those things. And if you ever decided to get out, you have that 4 year experience and you can go and get yourself a nice salary paying job. So another thing would be to consider like the officer route for Space Force. So for the officers, you have like acquisition manager, astronautical engineer, intelligence officer, and so on, and like Space Force effects operations officer. Like a lot of these too, they are very difficult to get in. This is, I think, one thing that's very niche about the Space Force that they do have a lot of requirements, and it is a little bit harder, but it's something still good to look into. But look here, if you get a bachelor's degree, so if you go to school, you get your bachelor's degree in something related to that field, um, and you get an officer, if you get to commission as an officer, then you're basically going to school, you're graduating from school, you're becoming an officer, you're getting that really high salary. You get to spend 4 years in the Space Force. Let's just say you graduated at 22 years old. You get to join the Space Force as a space systems operator, right? You're getting officer pay, you're getting experience. And now you can do this for 4 years. And if you like it, stay in for 20 years. You still get your pension at the end. You still get all the benefits while you're in. And then the best thing about it is, hey, if you don't like it, you can get out and it's transferable. You don't have to stress out about it because all these people want you. All these companies want you. Probably, what's the thing called? X, SpaceX probably will get you, or some kind of engineering company. And they will love, especially because you have all the clearances and all that. But another thing to consider too is that you have to look out for though is that it is a little bit harder to get these kind of jobs. So even for like enlisted, right? So you go to like intelligence analyst, right? So if we click intelligence analyst, it'll tell you their career duties, the qualifications, and so on. So we're gonna go to qualifications, and this is the lowest one. When I've been looking at it, this is the lowest one. So the minimum general score that you can have on your ASVAB is 46. But all the other ones are very high. So just know, like for example, like if I was to go in, I would probably do something like this, cyber operations, right? So I was looking at it and I was like, okay, what do I need to get? Well, look, you have to make sure you're at least at this level, 60 to 64 on your general minimum score. So that's very crucial because I know, like, the ASVAB is something that everyone pays attention to and is worried about. So it's just important that you know that they are very selective. The Space Force is very selective, but it's high reward at the end. So how to join? So basically, these are the requirements. It's usually the same as all the other branches. You got to be 17 through 42, U.S. citizen. You apply through the Air Force because they fall under the Air Force, or you can call the recruiter and kind of move forward with those tests for your ASVAB, and then you get your screening, and so on, and then you go to basically their boot camp training and stuff like that, which is it's really cool. It's honestly such a great experience, and you can go on their website and kind of go through all this. But I just wanted to really emphasize that when you're choosing a career in the military in general, choose something that's going to benefit you because it might not always work out. And a lot of conversations that I have with a lot of people that are planning to get out because it didn't work out for them, they're racing either to finish a degree so they can find a good job when they get out, or some of them don't have a plan at all. So the Space Force is something that, like, hey, you can just kind of ditch all that. Just if you want to go to Space Force, you can go get some good skills, and then when you get out, maybe you will have transferable skills working with high tech stuff. Um, and then as far as the officer route, that one's just a great way to go. If you're 18, you're considering a branch and you want to be involved with technology and you love STEM, go to school, get yourself an engineering degree in aerospace or in something in technology. And once you're done, go become an officer. And then once you become an officer, you get the best of both worlds. You serve a 4-year contract, and at 26 you can decide, like, hey, do I want to stay in? Do I want to get out? And regardless if you get out, if you get out, you're still going to get a $120,000 salary. But if you stay in, you get the reward of, you get a pension. You're not getting deployed. You're not going on a boat. So that's the big thing, right? A lot of people ask all the time, like, will I be on a boat? How long will I be on a boat? Where would I get stationed? How often will I be deployed? And the thing that steers a lot of people away from joining the military is those crucial things, like, will I be away from family? How long will I be gone? I don't want to see my kids. And a lot of people get out for the same reason, like they don't want to come back and their kids maybe not recognize them or be gone for too long, and things happen or they can't be there. So obviously there's a lot to think about, but this Space Force, I think, is something to really consider. Take your time, explore the website. It's freaking awesome. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys can look at it and really learn something from it. And I hope you guys can find something interesting about it. But overall, I think the Space Force is really something to consider. It's something that I might consider if I ever left the Coast Guard. And yeah, other than that, have a good one. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.